Hello and welcome to The Thing About Golf, the podcast series from Golf Australia magazine that attempts to answer that nagging question we all find it difficult to explain to our non-golf friends. Just what is it that draws us to this silly game? My name's Rod Morri and I act as a sort of a tour guide on these explorations into the minds of golfers, be they players, caddies, administrators, or involved in the game in some other way. On episode 17, we're going to meet one of my favourite people in golf and one whose voice I believe will come to be considered among the most important of this generation. Almost everybody listening to this podcast will be aware of Mike Clayton in some capacity, be it as player, commentator, or course architect. My hope is that no matter how well you think you know him, you'll come away from today's conversation feeling like you know him just a little bit better. We'll come to Mike in just a moment, but as always, there's some administration to deal with, starting with our back catalogue. Now, I perused the download numbers recently, and it is fabulous to see that many of you seem to be discovering our past shows. If this is your first visit, I urge you to do the same. There's some nuggets of gold and some valuable golf wisdom to be found in our various interviews. We've had the likes of Bob and Kathy Shearer, the two Peters, Senior and Lonard, and the all too often overlooked David McKenzie. For those whose interests stray more towards course architecture, there are chats with Tom Doak and Bob Harrison, and I'll be honest, one of my personal favourites, a wide-ranging discussion with publisher Paul Daly. You can find all of those and more by heading to the podcast page at golfaustralia.com.au. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. Or even better, subscribe to the show on your favourite device and you'll receive the new episodes as soon as they're released without having to do a thing. If you've got some feedback, be it good, bad or indifferent, don't hesitate to get in touch. We've had some excellent guest suggestions as well as some kind words along the way, and all of it, I can assure you, is greatly appreciated. Now, I'm sure you didn't come along here to listen to me bang on about web addresses and subscription processes, so let's get on with it. And this episode, I'll be honest, was a bit of an odd one for me personally. As some of you may know, I've co-hosted the State of the Game podcast with Mike Clayton and Jeff Shackelford for the best part of a decade, and Mike has also been a not infrequent guest on other podcasts that I've been involved with. Over the years, I've interviewed him on various topics for stories, touching almost every imaginable facet of the game along the way. I'm an unashamed fan of Mike's writings on and opinions about golf, most of which are pretty well known to anyone with more than a passing interest in the game. And much of it has appeared on the pages of this very magazine over the years. But as I try to do with all people on this show, the goal of this interview was to try to unearth some of the things we don't know about Clayton. And I hope that by the end of this chat, you feel that that's been achieved. So without further ado, here it is, a conversation with Mike Clayton. Well, first things first, Mike Clayton, I suppose we have to say thanks for your time, although I get plenty of your time, so I probably don't appreciate it.
All right, nothing better to do in the rain.
in the rain.
Playing golf today.
Down here in sunny Collingwood in Melbourne. The podcast, as you know, Clates, is called The Thing About Golf. It might be the biggest question of all, but what's the thing about golf for Mike Clayton?
Oh, it's just my life, really. I just started... Remember the first time I went on a golf course, my dad was playing with a friend of his at Point Lonsdale. I must have been 6, I reckon, 7. And they teed off and we sprinted off up the fairway and got the balls and ran back with the balls. And he said, no, that's not the idea. That was my first memory of golf. And then
Was he a regular golfer?
Yeah, he was a member at Greenacres, so not far from here. And then he took me to watch some tournaments. We went to watch the PGA at Metro in 1968 and he said, there's Peter Thompson, he's the best player here, we'll go and watch him. So I started watching Peter Thompson, and then, because I thought at that point any pro who had his name on his bag was some sort of god. And then we moved to a house behind Easton in Doncaster, which is now a housing estate, sadly, and I started caddying because I wanted some money. My mate and I next door wanted to, so we went up and turned up on Tuesdays
to caddy.
Best finery, yeah, with long socks and shorts and... Ladies' Day, mate, come back tomorrow. So we came back the next day and a guy from Sydney hired me for it. Gave me $1, which was like, it was a fortune.
A fortune at the time. Was it common at the time, the caddying thing? Were there caddies at the course every day?
We were the only two there.
Right.
And we used to caddy every Saturday morning and we had regulars on Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon. So it was kind of what we did. And then the assistant pro there was great. His dad was the superintendent, so he caught me on the course sneaking on one day just after I was doing that. Just after I started to play. Mm-hmm. There were some clubs lying around the house, so I grabbed them, and he caught me sneaking onto the course one day. He said, "Don't race, just stay out of the members' road, you'll be fine." That's how you grow the game.
That's important, isn't it?
Rubbish phrase, growing the game. That's how you do it. Kindly men who look after kids who are sneaking on. And because I was not old enough to be a member, I was only 12, so you had to be 14 to join.
What was that about? What is that about?
Well, I don't know what that was about. Yeah,
it's bizarre, isn't it? If you're old enough to pick up a golf club and swing and hit a golf ball,
yeah. Because Metro was 16. You couldn't join that till you're 16, which was kind of.
It's a luxury we can't afford in the modern age, isn't it? As we've seen what's happened with the golf industry, that's an unthinkable notion now that you would turn back any sort of membership.
Sue O went to Long Island when she was 10 because that was the only place that would take her as a member. Okay. So it was quite away from where she lived, but that was the only place that would let her play as a member. So it's kind of odd, I mean, especially when you're good enough to play in the Australian Open at 12.
12, that's right. Represent Australia at the Olympics, and might be an awful lot of clubs wishing they might have made an exception, given how that unfolded. We'll talk about some of that state of the game stuff, which we talk about regularly all the time, but I'm still interested in sort of you. So you went there and started caddying, and was that, you said that was for money, but was there an element of that which was access to the course and the ability to play? What was your relationship with playing of the game at the time?
Well, I only started playing because I was caddying. And the assistant pro was great. In fact, he wasn't even the assistant pro then. He was about to be. He was 16. A guy called Mel Humphreys, who was tremendous. And we just, there were clubs. I just jumped the fence and started hitting balls. So this looks like fun.
And of course, immediately? Were you
and I could kind of hit it all right. So, and the course was literally across the back fence. So it was just perfect for me. So that was my childhood done, really.
Yeah.
Just went to the golf course.
You remember the name specifically of Mel Humphreys. Most of us, I think, have a teacher that we remember, an important figure in life in some way from school, and sounds like he was that to you.
Yeah, he was, and he was barely older than I was, really. He was just an assistant pro, but he was just kind. I used to caddy for him and walk around with him, and I thought he was unbelievable. Couldn't believe how good he was because he could actually hit the ball properly. Because the guys I caddied for weren't any good.
Well, what was that like then? So who were you caddying for, the average member? And what was the caddying thing like? Was it Saturday?
I caddied for a guy called Howard Hamilton in the morning. It was a 25 handicap, and a guy called Eddie Jones in the afternoon he introduced me to Bobby Jones. He said, "I'll play my Bobby Jones pitch and run here." The guy was a 27 handicap, but who's Bobby Jones? He was this great player who won the Grand Slam, and so it's where you learn about golf. And there were magazines in the back of the pro shops. So I was interested in them, and I started buying golf magazines, and people would get a book for Christmas about golf, so you start reading about, because I was interested in the history of it. I like the history. It's the only subject I was any good at school, so I was always interested in the history of golf. It always amazed me that blokes who had no interest in it at all, and lots of pros who I played with had have no interest in it. Mm-hmm. But I thought that was the most interesting part of it, really.
I met an elite amateur the other day who'd never heard of Peter Thompson.
Yeah, he designs golf courses, doesn't he?
Not even that. Never heard of
amazing.
Peter Thompson.
Which is the story about
and was unimpressed by 5 Open wins.
Which is the story about that Ruben Sonjaja, who was working for Kathy Shearer at the Australian Open. And we were talking about Bob, and I looked at him and I said, "You've got no idea who Bob Shearer is, do you?" He said, "No, not a clue." I said, "You know who Peter Thompson is?" He said, he designs golf courses. This guy was a semi-finalist in the Australian Amateur. How can you not know who Peter Thompson is?
What is that about, do you think? It seems like that seems generational to me. There's a complete lack of interest.
Disinterest. No interest in...
Has the game changed as well, perhaps? Is the professional path clearer, earlier for players, and so therefore it's a much more self-interested game right from the beginning?
Yeah, a lot more kids want to be pros straight away when they're 14. I didn't know I was going to be a pro till I was 23 or 4, really. I was still trying to figure out what I was going to do. And Colin Phillips, who was the boss of the AGU at the time, who said, "I think you should turn pro." So I went, "Okay, if you think I should turn pro, then okay, I'll give it a try." But Grady and Finchy and Peter Senior and Peter Fowler and guys like that, they were going to be pros or were pros. Chook was a pro. Chook and Finchy were pros at 16. Mm-hmm.
Senior pretty early too, didn't he, Peter Senior?
I saw Pete play when he was 13. He was going to be, the first time I saw him play, he was going to be a pro. He was 13 and just smashing it. So he was almost a pro at 13 anyway, just wasn't getting paid to do it. But And grades was the same. But I was much different to them.
In what way? You won the Australian Amateur. You could clearly play.
Yeah, but I didn't. I didn't. They were much more single-mindedly focused on being golf pros from a young age. I wasn't. I just loved golf, and I'd have been happy to play amateur golf. Really, in fact, if I had my time around, no, that's true. I love playing pro golf, but if I had my time again, I would have seriously thought about going and working for Claude Crockford and learning about growing grass and shaping and building and doing what I do now. It would have been much more used to being what the second half of my career has been in learning how to ride machines and work machines and grow grass and understand drainage and irrigation and shaping and construction. And I might have thought about doing that, which would have been just as much fun, I think.
If you'd done that, would you not think now, if I'd gone and been a player and played the tour for all those years, that would be much more useful to me?
I mean, sometimes I think, 1975 I wasted. It was a year after I left school. I started a uni course and quit because I hated it.
What was that in? What do you
marketing or something. It was just rubbish.
Marketing?
Yeah. I could have gone and worked for the PGA
Might as well
Tour.
have done diplomacy, Clayton.
I wish I should have gone to Europe and Cave for Bob Shearer. I probably could have done that.
Did you have that opportunity?
Not Bob so much, but I know I could have gone. If I had my time again, I would have jumped on a plane and gone to Europe. And Seve was a kid, and got caddy for Faldo or Seve or someone like that for a year would have been really cool. But we all could have done stuff like that. They're all things that would have been a fun thing to do. But
and why did you choose the uni? What was the thinking? Do you remember at the time?
Because I went to school and that's what kids did.
Because you should.
I should have gone and worked at Royal Melbourne for Claude Crockford. Was he still there? He probably was. Yeah. Finishing up what I finished up doing, that would have been much more use. But I finished up going and doing an arts degree at La Trobe and it wasn't any use really, I don't think. But
there must be some value to being
But that time of my life was important. I had a girlfriend who was great. We were together for 4 years. She was terrific. We kind of grew up together, went to uni. I was doing stuff. And I still had plenty of time to play golf. So I think it was an important period of my life to kind of grow up a little bit and get some sort of rounded life really that wasn't just focused on playing golf every day, all day.
Because that's what I was about to say. You strike me. We've had Peter Senior on the show and Peter Lonard, and we're hoping to get Peter Fowler to come on at some point. And there's a real single-mindedness to all of those from very early in life, which has its benefits, obviously, in terms of golf and the achievements of their careers. And all of them are fine players who've had magnificent careers. But I wonder whether you give something up when that's your whole existence. It feels to me like you've always been somewhat more into. Your interests have always been broader than just golf.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, probably.
You read about politics and music.
My grandfather was a history teacher. He was interested in that. And my parents were. So there was, golf was not, golf was it was something you might do, but it wasn't something it wasn't something I was always going to do. So I was always interested in other stuff, I think.
Yeah, indeed. Did I hear you say on another podcast, or it might have been a book podcast, when you and Charlie Happel released your book, was it last year or the year before? You were talking about some of the books that your mother gave you when you were young and their influence on you.
I was with Corey Perkin. The music books. I was fascinated by musicians, Schubert and Bach and those, just because probably because not so much of their music, but just reading about their lives. I thought their lives were interesting. My grandmother had a piano and kind of, there was classical music in the house a little bit, and my grandparents were always playing that stuff. So I was interested in history and interested in people's lives, and they would just seem like that. Beethoven, and they seemed like they were interesting people. And they were easy books to read, so I just, I played the flute at school for a couple of years, but, it wasn't like I was particularly musical. I just thought their lives were interesting.
And does all that in your mind in some way always end up coming back to golf? Is there always a golf element or something that you can apply to golf that you learn from things outside of golf? Are you wired that way?
I'm not sure. I don't know. Not really. But, I think when I started playing golf, instead of reading about Beethoven, I was reading about Jones, Hogan.
Uh-huh.
So I just think those lives of those people are interesting. No matter what they're interesting people are interesting people who do amazing things. What were their lives like?
Yeah. You won the Australian Amateur in 1978, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Tell us about the sort of the lead up to that, as in how you got to the point where you were good enough to be playing in the Amateur and then won it, and what you remember about that week. We all know that you did it, but I'm not sure many of us know many of the details. It was match play, of course, so it's immediately interesting.
It was match play. So it was the old Royal Queensland with the old clubhouse and the old course. I got into trouble for throwing clubs in the Interstate Series the week before.
You had a temper, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I was terrible. I was, I caddy for Sue now, and I caddy, Elvis and Blake Collier and Lucas, and the 4 kids I've caddied for the last few. I'm embarrassed the way I behave when I look at the way they handle stuff. Sue's makes me feel like, God, I was such an idiot the way I carried on. So anyway, it was the interstate series and the amateur, same course over 2 weeks. So we played. So grades grades had turned pro, but Peter Senior was there. Ozzie Moore, John Kelly, Peter Sweeney. So we were all kind of golf nerds, golf tragic. So we played 18 practice. So the week went 18 practice, 36-hole matches. So 2 matches on the first day, 1 match on the Saturday, 2 matches on the Sunday. So Monday was a day off. So what did we do? We played golf. Queensland. Tuesday was the Australian foursomes, 36 holes. Wednesday was the first round of the qualifying. Thursday was the second round of the qualifying. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, if you make with 36 holes a day. So we play. Tiger Woods don't play that much golf in 6 weeks. So it was a long week. And I remember I was practicing on the range. I just qualified. It was really windy. And I was hitting balls next to Ian Hood, a friend of mine from Sydney. And the draw came out. I looked at the draw and said, God, Hoodie, this draw's a joke. I can win this thing here now. Because almost literally every good player was in the other half of the draw. Mm. Gresham, Sweeney, Phil Wood, Colin Kay, Senior, Chris Benithan, maybe. They were all on the other side, and they all just knocked each other out. And I played Doug Perry, who was a good player from Victoria. He 3-putted 17. I had a fluky shot through the trees on the last hole of the green. And maybe he 3-putted 18. He 3-putted either 17 or 18. And I beat him 1 up, but I should have lost. And then I played Glenn Coggill, who was in the Queensland junior team with Greg Norman. He was kind of Norman. He was a couple of years older than me, and I beat him. Then I played Bob Stevens, who was in the winning Eisenhower Cup team. And then I played Elliot Booth, who was a good player. He won the medal, semi-finals. Really good player.
There's no chops at that level.
Yeah. And then I played Gresham in the final, who was the best player and should have won a bunch of amateurs and didn't. He lost to Sweeney, Ray Jenner, Peter Sweeney and me, 3 Victorians in 73, 76 and 78, who had no right beating him, really. Mm-hmm. We had blinders and we all beat him, which was bizarre. So I beat him 1 up, but I was 4 down after 9 and playing. I thought I was playing pretty well. He'd played, I think I was 1 under and 4 down.
Wow.
And he knocked it on the old 10th green at Royal Queensland, undulating, double-tiered green, tiny green. He knocked it on the green on the front and 3-putted it. And I won that hole and won the next 4 holes. And it's like, wow, I'm in this match now. So I was, and then I fluked it on 16. I hit it over the green at the 16. I think I hit the downside, hit a golf cart and bounced under a bush. I was like almost completely dead. I walked in there with an 8, grabbed an 8 iron, smashed it into the bank, hit the bank perfectly, just jumped up, trickled down to like 3 feet. It was like a ridiculous shot.
Heartbreaking for him to watch.
Yeah.
You can't help but think, I know everyone says it's not over till it's over and you always got to count on your opponent doing something, but you look at that and you think there's no way, do you? Yeah.
And then he missed a shortish birdie putt on 17, maybe 4 or 5 feet.
So you're claiming to be the Stephen Bradbury of the Australian amateur?
Oh, no, it was we both played well. But, Gresh was a good player. I mean, he was Mark McNulty, really. If he'd turned pro, he'd have been Mark McNulty. Yeah. That was the same game, and he was a good player, really good.
Yeah, one professional tournament.
It was kind of a measure of your progress. That was why amateur golf and match play was good, was that beating guys like that was a measure of your progress, really.
Because he won professional tournaments, Tony.
Yeah, he won
two, I think, the South Australian Open.
He won the South Australian Open and the New South Wales Open. I think he was there. He might have even been in the New South Wales Open. No, he won the New South Wales Open the year before that. But he was good. He was a proper player.
And when that happened, was that an immediate signal, as it seems to be these days, that you're now ready, that there's nothing left to do, that you turn professional? You sort of seem to suggest that it wasn't. Oh, no,
I thought it was 1978. I didn't turn pro, and I didn't turn pro for 3 more years after that. 3 more years.
So what do you do when you're the Australian
Well, I was still at uni. I was still going to university. I did that. I made the Australian team in 1980. So I had a free year. I'd finished uni, and I was working in where was I working? I don't remember. I was working for a friend of mine, John Main, who had a shoe factory near here somewhere. So I was working for him, and I was in the Australian team, so that paid my way to get to Europe. And Gresham beat me in the second round of the French amateur, and I caddied for him in the final where he beat John Kelly. Roger Mackay was on that team, and then Roger and I stayed. Roger, I don't know what Roger did. He disappeared into Europe. So probably went to the Greek islands and landed on the beach. But anyway, Maney had given me some money, gave me $500 or something, so I had a bit left. So I stayed and played. I played the qualifying for the British Open. I had a par the last to get in the Open at Muirfield, duffed the wedge on the front, putted up 4 feet short, marked it 1 putt length across because my coin was, I was playing with Peter Cowan and Paul Hode. And then forgot to put it back, and then missed the putt. That was a 2-shot. So I finished up missing by 3, but it was like a horrible joke.
Stood on the front of the green, 1 shot out of it, and
1 shot. Yeah, it was a 2-putt to make the British Open. I was like, wow, this is a big deal. Which would have been, I was not good enough to play the Open at that point. I just gone there and missed the cut. But so I walked around. I remember walking around with Peter Thompson. I think it was the first Open he hadn't played. His last Open was 1979 at Lytham.
You would have known him at this stage.
Yeah, and I remember I played with him in the Vic Open in 1977. And we walked around watching Greg in the first round, playing with Andy Bean and someone else. So Thompson was always interested in, he was Peter Thompson walking around watching Greg Norman play the Open. And he walked around for a couple of hours watching him play.
Does Greg Norman follow anybody around at the Open?
I'm sure he doesn't. But anyway.
I don't mean that as a slight.
No.
The world's changed a lot, hasn't it?
So then I don't know how, somehow I entered the Dutch Open. So I went to the Dutch Open the next week. I was exempt because I was an amateur or something. And I made the cut. So you go to the first tee on Saturday if you made the cut in the European Tour event. And there was a bit of paper that said, do you want to play next week, yes or no? Because if you made the cut, you're exempt into the following week.
That's right, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the next week was the Benson and Hedges in Fulford, which was a big tournament. So I played the weekend out, played pretty well, finished 20th or something.
You didn't have to turn pro to take the spot? You just had to make the cut?
So I just somehow got to the ferry in Rotterdam and got in the ferry and went across to Hull, and I don't know how I got to Fulford, but I got there somehow. Got a bus or a train or something, and with my suitcase and my
your
golf
club
bag.
Over your back?
I think, how did I ever do that? If my parents had known what I was doing, well, you're all right, are you okay?
No Skype, no Google, no Airbnb,
nothing. So no money.
No money.
Got to the Benson Hedges, played with Manuel Calero, who was a good player, missed the cut, watched Roberto Di Vincenzo play with Roger Davis on the weekend, and I met a girl in Holland at the Dutch Open, so I'm going back there. So I went back, to stay with her, she lived in The Hague, and the Dutch Amateur was on that week. And I don't know how I got in. I just sort of turned up. Can I play? Yeah, you can play. So I won the Dutch Amateur at The Hague. Not a big deal, not many good players there, but beautiful course. Mm-hmm. Love that. I've gone back there a lot since. But
totally underrated part of the golf course.
Really good golf course, yeah. So I won that. And then I had to come back because the state team was practicing, and they said, you better come back. And I didn't. I was very happy to stay in Holland for another month or so, but so we came back, played the amateur, didn't play any good, played the Australian Open, the Lakes, made the cut, played all right. That was the first time I made the cut in the Open, played with Bob Charles and Eamon Darcy and played well there. Next year I worked in a factory putting grips on putters, worked with Paul Daly, I think it was Paul Daly.
Paul Daly, the golf course architect?
Sure was, yeah.
Running.
Sure we worked.
Been on the podcast as well.
Worked for Jeff Sowden, he'd won the Riversdale Cup. He was running a little golf business. And then I went to the tour school. So I fumbled my way through a few years, really. Yeah. I could have used them more productively, but anyway, that was what I did. And
do you regret any of that, looking back?
No, I think it was good. I was growing up,
It's kind of the important thing, isn't it?
Learning to travel and, travelling is, looking back, it was an amazing way to learn how to travel. You had to be entirely self-sufficient and figure out how to get somewhere with no money and sleep on the ferry at night and find somewhere to stay and, work out practice rounds and be around good players and, just, it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Tell me, well, first things first, were you the first amateur to win with a big ball?
Yep. I was the only guy in the field using a big ball.
Tell us about that and what the response to that was.
Well, I don't think there was any response except that I didn't tell anyone I was using it. But earlier that year, I'd figured if I was going to be a golf pro, I was going to have to learn to play with the big ball. So I never had another small ball again. Mm-hmm. Just threw them all out.
And did you quit the game?
Because I lost 25 yards? Yeah. No. In fact, the best thing that happened to golf around the world was being forced to play with the big ball because the Open was 74. The first big ball Open was 74. Within 5 years, Seve had won the Open, and that great European generation emerged. Now, I don't think that ever would have happened if they'd kept playing with a small ball, because they never would have been able to go to America and compete and change balls and go back and forward, and it was crazy what was going on.
It was easier if you were used to the big ball to go to the small ball, wasn't it? So Nicholas would go across to the Open and switch to the small ball, and it would be you just hit it further.
It was easier to play with. It went further and it was easy using the wind. And it was.
So you could adapt to that much more easily than you could adapt to growing up with the small
guys
ball.
Who, Billy Duncan, guys like that, who Billy hated the big ball. He played well with it, but he played his whole life with the small ball, and then at his mid-30s, or he was. Now you have to change balls, Billy. So So he was a great small ball player, and he turned into a terrific big ball player. But it was a big change.
Mm. Yeah, well,
especially because the only ball that I was using a hot dot and a top flight, so a hard Surlin ball. But then the first Ballada balls that came out here were just Pro Traj Titleist, which were built to play in America with no wind and hit the ball high. And we're playing wind in Australia and Britain, and you're playing a ball that's not designed for the wind at all. So they made a thing called the low traj ball, which was their first attempt at making a ball that was better in the wind. And then DDH came out with that. Dunlop came with that DDH ball, which is a great ball. So Titleist got better at making balls that worked in the wind.
Yeah. It's always been a crucial part of the professional game in particular, hasn't it? Equipment and how it performs and all those sorts of, obviously, because that's what you're doing for a living.
Yeah.
But not as big a thing as it seems to be now, maybe.
Well, you're just trying to find a good driver and a good 3-wood. And, everyone had a ping one iron, not everyone, but most guys had a ping one iron because they were a revolution, really.
So that was a game changer. What were the game changes that you can recall?
Ping one iron, the DDH ball, and nothing until Roger Cleveland turned up with some beautiful wedges. I mean, the wedges we used were awful. Looking back, they were horrible-looking things. I remember seeing my first Cleveland wedges at Slaley Hall, which was not the best course in England by a long stretch. But, with these Cleveland wedges, wow, these things are amazing. So I thought they were, and every wedge now is a copy of what he did.
It's a bit like the ping answer, isn't it?
Scotty Cameron's putters. I mean, Roger Cleveland and Carsten Solheim were the geniuses. And then I hated metal woods. I used that little tailor-made wood. I hated it. I thought it was just a horrible club. I was used to hitting the ball on the toe or the heel of a wooden driver and have it come back. I used this metal. I remember playing with Curtis Strange at the Palm Meadows Cup, and I got in the first hole. And you could play the first hole down the left-hand fairway. I don't know what hole it was. And I aimed it down the fairway, and this thing came out straight left and went right down the middle of this other fairway. And he thought I'd aimed it there. I was like, I had these shots that were just... If you hit it in the toe, it just went straight right in, and it just went straight. They were horrible clubs. So I went back to using woods for it. I was kind of one of the later guys to change from. So then, the great Big Bertha came out, and that was kind of the game.
The start of the metal.
You look at it now, it's ridiculously small, given the stupid things we play with now. But
it's a 5-wood.
So, nothing revolution, nothing game-changing happened. I suppose, I used the Ping I2 irons were. They were a huge change. I played with those for they were great clubs, I thought. But nothing really changed until the modern frying pan, really.
And what about players? You've already mentioned a bunch of names of the guys whose era you sort of played in. And we forget that you played at all those. You just casually mentioned you played with two-time US Open champ Curtis Strange at Palm Meadows. Well, of course you did. You were one of the premier players here in Australia every season and one of Europe's consistent performers as well. So who were your favourite guys to play with, and who are the characters on the European tour?
Well, I played a lot with my friend. I mean, the guys we hung around with were Frank Nobilo, Turner, Peter Fowler, Peter Senior, grades.
Senior said there was a
Finchy.
Was a place in London where you
we all lived in this little estate in Bagshot.
You guys would go to the continent and play, and when you came back, 1 week it was your turn, and 1 week it was somebody else's. And
Chook had the biggest house, so we all went there. Watched Chook's daughters grow up. One of them turned into a supermodel.
A legitimate supermodel.
But John, the South Africans were good. Blandy and David Frost when he was there, and Chris Moody, English guy who's I played a lot with Moods, but it was the era of Seve. We were all in awe of him. Everyone loved Seve, and we loved watching him play.
And what was he like when you were a fellow player?
I thought he was great. He was tremendous. He would.
Did you spend much time with him? Did you get to talk to him much?
A little bit, yeah. I remember getting a ride back to an airport in a courtesy car with him, and it was great to talk about golf. And I remember asking him what the best shot he ever hit was, and he said it was the chip at Lytham, which was the '88 Open where he missed that green left and had that. Didn't look like that difficult. It's Seve. Of course, he's going to get up and down. But he walked up there and he played it so quickly and boof, lipped it out. And I said, "What about that 3-wood at the Ryder Cup?" He said that was for the team. He said the shot at Lytham was for me. So Seve was great to talk with about golf. He was smart. I remember he hadn't played that well in the '85 Open, and he came into the Players' Lounge, and we were watching on TV, and I was sitting next to him, and he was kind of commentating on Sandy Lyle, playing the back nine really. And it was amazing to see how his insight into what was happening, because he'd obviously been. I'd never been there, and never good enough to be there, but he was the defending champion, so it was interesting to see his insights from what was really going on. And someone missed a putt somewhere on the 7th hole. He said his chance is gone. That's his chance gone. He's done.
Are they different, those players?
Were they different from?
Are they different? Have they got some special gift, some magical secret?
No, yeah, they're just better. Like, why is Roger Federer better? They're just better. They hit the ball better.
But that insight of knowing his chance is gone.
Well, yeah, but I think they learn that because they're in that all the time.
Uh-huh.
They're so used to it. Seve was just...
So they recognise moments that maybe we don't.
Yeah, because they're in it all the time. So, so they've been through it and lost. I mean, Seve, 83... He 3-putted a green at Oakmont some early on, and that was. He said it was him done. I was done.
Did he play with it? Did he essentially play that tournament with a 1-iron?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
he never hit a drive. It was a US Open.
Yeah, he played with Watson last round. He was right there.
Hit 1-iron off every tee.
Yeah, he played beautifully.
So they said he couldn't win the US Open, didn't they? Which would have rankled him, no doubt.
Yeah, but the Americans never understood Seve. They didn't get him. And, if you go to Spain and you understand how the Spaniards eat, and you go to dinner at 8:30 or 9 o'clock, and it takes 4 hours. I've been to restaurants in Spain where the people are walking in at midnight. It's a complete opposite of eating in America. I don't want to generalise about America, but it's in, get out, and in quick and get out again.
And no matter where you are, have the same thing.
You're in at 6:30 and you go to a chain restaurant and you're out at 7:15, and it's like, get it over it. So I can see Seve going to America and just, what is this?
Yeah.
I think the culture, the food culture in Spain is clearly better than America from my experience. But he would just go there and go, what is this? I mean, why are people going to dinner at 6:30 and they're back in their room by 7:30? I mean, he was going out at 8:30 and coming back at 11:30 because food was something to savour, and it took time, and it was an
event, isn't it?
It was an event.
It's a social gathering, and the food's just a...
it's a famous story about Huggy and getting invited to dinner by David Duval and O'Meara.
No, I didn't know this one.
Because Huggy was O'Meara's ghostwriter.
Yes, that's right.
We were playing the Lankham. Huggy, we're going to dinner in Paris. Come to Paris with us for dinner. So they jumped into a van and they go to the Champs-Elysees, and they get out of the Champs-Elysees. Where do they go? The Burger King.
Oh,
and Huggy said, are you guys kidding? He said, it's great. O'Meara said, it's great, isn't it? It's like, really?
Dear, oh dear.
So anyway.
Royale with cheese.
But Seve was great. And he was such a beautiful, amazing player to watch. I mean, I remember Greg Turner and I watching him play in Madrid.
Did others go out? I know you've told me that.
Not
you and
really.
Greg used to go out.
Not
and follow
so
him,
much. You watch him on the range, obviously, but the players going, not really. I wish I'd done it more. I wish I'd done it more. Because every time you watched him, you always remember shots that he hit, and he just hit shots that others did. But he was such a charismatic. If he walked if Seve came back and walked into a pub across the street there, everyone would look at him. Even if they didn't know who he was. Yeah. He was just, who's that guy?
He has it.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is, he was it. Remember, Lee's a bit like that.
I think so too.
He's a bit like
I agree.
Yeah.
He's got it.
His sister doesn't have it at all, but he does. It's weird how...
Yeah.
And Manuel, his brother, never had it. Really, Manuel was just another player on the two. He was a nice player. But Seve was just a different cat.
Yeah. Curtis Luck's got a bit of it. A little bit, too, I reckon. And ironically, Adam Scott doesn't. He's got almost none of it. I think.
He's just...
Fantastic bloke. Yeah. Couldn't find a better ad for the game or a better diplomat.
Yeah.
He doesn't have...
Yeah.
Norman had it.
Yeah.
Did he always have it, Norman?
Yeah, Greg always had it, yeah. There was a picture I saw on Twitter the other day of Rivero, Canizares, Pinero and Seve, the four of them. And I thought if you took that picture to the middle of China, to someone who'd never heard of it, what even golf was, and said, who's the star? They would all pick that guy. not one person would go run at the other three guys. No, it was he's the star, that guy's clearly the star. And it was just a picture of 4 guys standing there.
Yep.
But you could pick who the star was.
Yeah,
and Greg was like that. Same thing. I remember sitting with Trevor Herden at Royal Queensland, the old course, and Greg's group was coming down the 12th fairway, and I said, yeah, same thing. I said, if you put 1,000 Chinese here who didn't know what golf was and sat him here all day and said, there's one guy who's a star here, you have to pick him out, they would have all picked that guy.
One shot.
He's that. No, there's that guy. Not even hitting a shot. You see him walking down the field. Oh, that's the guy.
That's him.
Yeah, he's the one.
Is it just confidence? But what is that?
I don't know what it is. Presence.
Because it's real, isn't
but
it?
do they have
the
do they have the presence because of what they are as
well,
players?
this is the question, isn't it?
Or would Greg have had it anyway? If Greg had been a mining engineer like his dad, would he have had that? I think he probably would have.
Yeah, or a pilot, or
yeah. And Seve would have still had the Seve just had whatever. Because charisma is a really rare thing.
Yeah.
People talk about charisma like it. Every bloke in the there's one bloke in the pub with charisma. Nah. I've seen Seve had it. Seve is the only person I've seen who really had it, I think.
Like a gift.
Yeah.
Born with it.
Just
doesn't develop it.
incredible, yeah.
It's born with it. What do you remember about, when you think about those times, what do you remember? Do you remember the golf, the tournaments, the shots, the results?
Of playing in
lifestyle?
Europe?
Yeah. How long were you in Europe? 20-something
15 years.
15 years. That's a big chunk of your life.
Yeah, it was. I remember the courses I liked. It's being around the tour. And the tour was fun. It's a bit like, you don't really have to. Part of the problem with the tour is you don't have to grow up, really. It's a bit like going to school. It's just a glorified version of school. You're with your friends and
there's someone to take care of it,
someone
isn't
to
there?
take care of you. And you have holidays and you have weeks where you play and except it's more fun because you don't have to go if you don't want to. You don't have to go and practice. You don't have to go and play a practice round. And every night you're in a restaurant in a really cool city and you're with your friends and your wives and and you're in Europe, so it's a beautiful place to be. And so it was a lot of fun. And you could, I look back and think, we thought we were playing for some pretty decent money, but it was laughable given what they play for now. And no one aside from the real stars really made any money. I mean, we had dinner with Roger Chapman a couple of months ago in London, and we were talking about it. And he said, I said, "Do you make any money?" He said, "No, I never really made any money. Not any sort of real money. You made enough to pay your mortgage and."
You had a job.
You had a job, yeah.
You had a job.
It was a job, yeah.
It was a decent job.
Yeah, but
better
it wasn't
bus driving, but
it wasn't something that when you were finished with it, you were done. You had to go and figure out what else you were going to do, and whether that was the senior tour or teaching, or you got out of golf altogether and sold real estate, or you became Pete Cowan and became the best teacher in the world. Or
did you play with him? Was he a player?
Yeah. Pete was good, but he was a frustrated player. You could see he was frustrated, angry because he knew he didn't. I think he knew that if you were talking to him about it, I think he would say, "I knew my technique wasn't good enough to be the player I wanted to be, and I couldn't figure out why it wasn't." So when he stopped playing, he went to learn, how do you teach these guys not to go through the frustration that I went through? And a lot of us were like that because there wasn't much teaching then. And kids grow up now with their phone. You can see your swing I first saw my swing when I was 16.
TrackMan on it, Clayton. It's not just a video. It tells you what the club face is doing at impact.
So we had no idea what we did. I had no idea what my swing looked like. I didn't have a clue. When I first saw it, I thought, well, that's no good. But I didn't know how to fix it. So
does every player think their swing's no good when they see it?
No. Well, Peter Thompson told me that. He said, I saw my swing once on TV. I thought I swung like Sam Snead. And I saw my swing on TV and I thought I'd never looked at it again. And there's a guy like, Peter, really?
Really?
I mean, you go back and look at Tomo's swings. I mean, could you swing it any better than he did?
Every 3 months it bobs up on Twitter and it gets 1,000 retweets and likes and people are, this is amazing. I'm going to put this on loop and watch it for hours on end. It's an amazing golf swing.
Yeah.
So was yours as bad as you thought it was?
Yeah, it was. But it worked, I think. But it didn't work as well as it needed to be a better player than I was. And, if I'd grown up in a different era, I'd have grown up with a different swing and a better swing because I would have had it I would have seen what I was doing at 12 or 13 when I was forming it. And there would have been a teacher who said, your shaft's vertical, you do that, you need to get it more here, and you can clear that up in a week if you're 12 years old.
Are there dangers with that also? Somebody might have done that to Dustin Johnson too. Fixed his left wrist.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there are dangers to it, absolutely.
I can't remember who said it, but they said someone might have fixed his left wrist and he'd be running second in club championships at somewhere in California.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There is a danger to that. You've got to know what you're messing with. You've got to get with a good teacher. And
So then what's the key to golf, Clay? So those of us who are no good at playing, I certainly often think, I listen to pros talk, and I feel like golf pros put too much importance on the physical. If I could just hit that, then I could win. When you watch the game from the outside, it's rarely the golf swing that wins. You have to have a certain level of proficiency, obviously. But there are players who don't hit the ball as well as Tiger Woods, who've won tournaments and beaten Tiger in tournament, not beaten him head-to-head. There's something else, isn't there, about being successful at golf, which hasn't got anything to do with the swing. It's a given. You've got to be able to hit the ball, obviously, but it takes more than that.
But it's a myth that all pros hit the ball the same. I mean, clearly Tiger hits the ball better than anyone else, and Jack hit the ball better than
statistically.
They're better. Yes. They're high up in the greens in regulation and all that stuff. I watched Inbee Park win in Adelaide the other day, and she looks very ordinary looking swing. Mm-hmm. She hits ordinary shots on the...
Someone should have fixed her years ago, shouldn't they?
They should have fixed that swing. The shaft's too vertical, and you don't look at the ball when you hit it, but she moves her body beautifully. And on the ordinary holes at Royal Adelaide, or the holes that you could hit ordinary shots on, like the first hole, you can hit two very ordinary shots on the first hole and make a 4. In fact, she held a wedge on the first hole of the tournament, which belies it. But she hit up the fairway with not a very impressive looking ball flight, but it went straight and hit it on the green. It happened to go on the hole, but she got in the second hole and just hit it up the fairway, and hit it on the green and 2-putted, and got in the third and hit it down there and hit it on. But then she got in the 6th end of the wind, and driver 3 would right in the middle of the green. And she got in the 12th end of the wind, down the hill, upturned green, small, hard to hit, middle of the green both days. 14, the hardest par 4 on the course, round the corner with the drive, right in the middle of the green both days. 16, that tiny upturned green, middle of the green both days. So you watch that and you go, the 4 holes where she had to hit proper shots, 8 for 8 she was the first 2 days. She probably picked up 4 shots in the field there. Probably what she won the tournament by. So you could argue she won that tournament on those 4 holes in the first 2 days by playing them perfectly.
And did she know she was doing that? Has she looked at the course and realised these are the key holes?
No, I'm not sure. Well, I think instinctively she thought, these are hard holes, I've got to hit a good shot here. Okay. I've got to do more than just my ordinary shot here. And she did. And it goes to Hank Haney's, don't 3-putt, don't double chip, don't take penalty strokes. And Haney's formula with O'Meara was, he said O'Meara was just an ordinary tour player, and he wasn't. Clear, that's the wrong word, but there were lots of guys who played golf like Mark O'Meara on the US Tour, Bruce Litsky and John Cook and Hal Sutton, and they all did the same. They were all very good players. So O'Meara won 20 times, whatever, 2 majors. We worked out he couldn't win if he 3-putted, he double chipped, or he took penalty strokes. He couldn't. He wasn't that much better than everyone else that he could win, because someone that in the field that week would be not doing those things, and that would be very hard to beat. He said Tiger could do all that stuff and win because he was so much better than everyone else. And of course, O'Meara won tournaments where he 3-putted and hit the ball in the water, maybe, or bladed a bunker shot, whatever.
But as a mindset,
that
to approach a tournament,
for ordinary players who aren't superstars, if you could go a week without 3-putting, double chipping, and taking a penalty stroke, you'd be pretty high up in the field. So you can do all the stats you like, all the proximity to the hole and whatever. I keep telling Sue every week how many 3-putts, how many double chips, how many penalty strokes, and you can bet the smaller the number, the better you're going to finish. So she misses the cut in the Australian Open by a shot, hits it left on the 12th hole and takes 5 to get down. Had a bad lie, but bladed it, duffed it, chipped it on, missed it. Bladed it out of the bunker on 6. Bad lie at 16. Bladed it, made a triple and a double the first day. Missed the cut by a shot. There you go.
Take those out.
Take that out. Inbee 3-putted the 7th hole the first round. Hit an iron shot way left. Putted across the green 65 feet. 3-putted it. Drove it in the bunker at 18 the same day. Bogeyed that. But that's fine. That's not an error. That's just driving the bunker, hit it out, hit it on, bogey. You're going to make bogeys. You can make bogeys and win tournaments. Mm-hmm. But you don't make frivolous bogeys, which is what Haney's talking about. The second day, 4 birdies, no bogeys. And the weekend was pretty much the same.
Clean golf, isn't it? Clinical, clean, clever. Neat. Yeah.
So if you want it, I'd never watched Inbee play before. I'd watched her hit shots and seen her play, but I'd never really watched her play. That's why she's won all that, because she just doesn't make mistakes. Or she minimises it down. So that's, would she beat Mickey Wright in a fair-up fight? Not a chance, you would think. She's not Mickey Wright. Beautiful swing, flushes it, how does
something wins.
How does she beat Nelly Corder or Sung Park or
who are
Anne
Mickey
Van Dam.
aren't they? Yeah.
How does Inbee Park beat Anne Van Dam like a drum everywhere they play? Shouldn't be possible, but
no.
she's not making the same mistakes.
You've won golf tournaments. What's it like? What are you playing? What are the things that go through your mind? What is it like those last? Are you thinking about the golf swing? Do you stand and think, I don't have that shot? How can I play around that? What are the things that happen when you win a golf tournament? Because they're not easy at any level ever.
No, you hit one shot at some point that kind of, if I look at all the tournaments I won, Vic Open, I made 5 birdies in a row in the first round and got into the tournament early on and wasn't worried about making the cut. And then I made a hole-in-one the third day. And then I didn't think I had a chance to. The last day, I didn't think I had a chance to win. Trevino and Norman and Graham Marshall were Shearer ahead of me. I'm never going to beat those guys. And I went out in 34, Metro 3 under, and I thought, I can shoot 40 on the back 9, and that's 74. That's not a bad score for me. I'd made 20 grand the day before and make it a hole-in-one, so I was like, geez, I can make another 2,000 or 3,000. It'll be good. I was thinking about. I thought I can shoot 40 on the back 9, which is 5 over, and that'll still be. That's not a bad round. I was a bit nervous, and I fumbled my way through and shot 68. I played at 1 under, won the tournament. I thought, how'd that happen?
How did that happen?
And then they're all different, really.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's a truly bizarre thing to be thinking about. For the player that goes on to win with 9 holes to go, you were thinking, geez, I could shoot 5 over here and still get paid a decent amount.
But I had to change balls on the 10th tee because I teed off with a hot dot because I had a deal with Spalding. I'd played with David Graham and the Australian Open the year before, and I'd played my first time I'd played well. I finished 9th in the Australian Open with a triple bogey at the 16th of Victoria, par 3, and it was a fortune, $3,000 was a fortune. And I played with David Graham the third day. He was the US Open champion. I played with a hot dot. He said, in the scores, he said, if you want to be a good player, you're going to have to change the ball you're using. Okay, it's good enough for me. So the Vic Open, the boss was a lovely guy, Jack May. I'd worked at Spalding when I was at university. So I tee off with a hot dot, change to a Titleist on the second tee, play with the Titleist round of the 9th, and I'm 3 under. And I see Jack's on the back of the 9th. He's going to watch me tee off the 10th. I said to him, okay, shit, give me the hot dot back. So I played the 10th hole with a hot dot, hit it over the green, chipped it back, got up and down, changed to a Titleist on the 11th tee and played in with it. So that's how kind of crazy the game was. I mean, imagine that. So, which is what, since then they figured out how to make a Titleist do what a hot dot used to do, which was not cut and go through the wind, but spin.
Spin on the short ones, not on the long ones.
Yeah. So, and I was, you always get, I think when you're winning a tournament, you often get the shot you most detest or most don't want to have near the end somewhere. And I won a tournament and lost a tournament. I won the Heineken in Adelaide, in Perth. Had a dodgy tee shot off that don't go in the water tee shot off 17. I had a 4-iron in. Long shot, hard shot. Playing with Wayne Smith, I was a shot ahead of him. I hit it to about 4 feet. Great shot. Best shot I've hit probably. One of the best. And I had a 4-footer, a hard right to left breaker. And I knew I had no chance. I just no chance. This is a fluke if I hold this. So it's just a putt I hated and I always hated. And the crowd goes, ooh, and I missed. I said to my caddy, I was really just trying to 2-putt it. And then I had 2 great shots in the last year in the water. I won by 3, but in the end. And then a year later, I had the same putt in the New Zealand Open against Lucas Parsons. I had a 4-footer across the hill, hard right to left breaker, and I missed it. Lost by a shot. So you just get this. And I was never a great putter. And all the faults in my putting stroke were exposed by an under pressure, short, right to left putt, and I missed it all the time. I always missed it.
And is that compounded by the mindset that has you stand over it knowing that you can't hole it?
Well, you still think you can hold it.
You do, right.
You're hoping you're going to fluke it in. So you know what Doug Sanders felt. Standing over that putt to win the Open, he's thinking, this is the last thing I need to be doing is trying to get this thing in.
Because they're the shoulds, aren't they? Everybody else looks in it and it's a should.
Well,
you should make
easy.
that.
Yeah, you should make that. Yeah.
You should.
Yeah.
And the closer it is to should, the worse it is to be the person with the snake in their hands trying to.
Yeah. if you're a caddy, when I caddy now, I look at those. Well, she'll make that. He'll make that.
You're already walking to the next
Why would
tee.
you miss that? Sue missed a putt. I remember she made a putt in Hawaii. She was playing well the first round, and she 4-putted the 8th hole, which was our 17th. Hit a good shot, hit the tier, and went back down the tier. Putted up the tier, 4 feet short, knocked it 4 feet past, missed it 4-putt double. And she got in the last hole, and she too good hard hole, and you don't want to finish double bogey. It was a hard hole. She hit 2 great shots, putted it, knocked it 30-foot past, and putted it down 4 feet across the hill, right to left. And she made it. And her mum, who was watching, had no idea how good a putt. I said, that was a great putt there. She said, yeah, thanks. Her mum had no clue because she doesn't play golf.
No idea. That's right.
She was just kind of mad at her that she'd 4-putted. You 4-putt. It's like, do you realise how good a putt you just made there? Yeah. She just missed 2 of those.
Exactly.
She's got another one, and she hit a great putt. Right, it wasn't like a jabby trickle it in. It was just wham. So that's it's easy, but it's easy when you're watching. Only when you've played, you know how hard a putt that was. Yeah.
It's what always strikes me about people who watch golf on TV who don't play it. Yeah. A couple of things happen. First, the television only ever shows blokes who are playing great because they're at the leaderboard. So that makes the game look easy. But you see somebody like Spieth or Tiger or with that 3-footer left to right down the hill on the 18th at Augusta for the win, and the non-golfer just assumes they go make coffee.
Scott Hope, how'd you miss that?
How could you miss that?
Yeah.
Well, any golfer who's actually stood over any putt of importance on a fast green with a...
Yeah. To win the Masters.
It's like this. Yeah. But golfers are thinking, how'd you draw the putter back?
Yeah.
How did you get started?
Yeah.
Why does it mess so much with our minds? Because, of course, there's no actual consequences in golf, aren't there? I'm always fascinated by that Rotella notion that if you put the 6-foot-long lump of 4x2 on the ground and you ask 50 people to walk across it, nobody ever slips. And if you put it 10 feet in the air without a net, 49 people will fall off it.
Well, it's the thing is, you get to Augusta, the anticipation, not that I've played there, but any tournament, it's the anticipation of the week. You're there on Monday and you're playing practice rounds, you're going to dinner every night and you're thinking about the tournament and you're going through the pressure of the first round and then making the cut and, the third round. And, it's not just a 4-foot putt, it's a culmination of sometimes a dream of a lifetime, certainly of a whole week. And it comes down to, it's a smelly little downhill 4-footer right to left. It's not just... sure, if you walk out there, it's a 4-footer right to left. But it's more like the consequences and the dream. For Scott Hogue or Doug Sanders, it's the stand-over putts that were going to change their lives.
No matter what the outcome. And did for both. Change their lives.
It's not easy.
No. It's more like the full stop at the end of the book, isn't it, than...
Yeah. I guess it's like people who detest public speaking. They'll do anything to avoid standing up in front of a microphone and speaking. I've done it a lot, so you get used to it. But people who hate, I hate dancing. I just detest it. Last thing I want to do is get up on a dance floor. I just do anything not to do it.
Well, we've seen your performance on the group there at New South Wales.
That's right. So
you're an ungainly type when you get moving plates.
It's just not a. Yeah, it's hard. They're hard. Golf's hard.
Yeah. We forget that sometimes, don't we? It is hard. It's easier than it used to be, but it's still hard.
If I could have thought as a player like I do as a caddy, I'd have been a much better player.
Is it possible, though?
Yeah, I heard a play. I came for Blake the other day, Blake Collier at the Vic Open. First hole, he's playing well. First hole, third round. What was it, 10th at 13th Beach? Easy hole. It's a drive and a pitch. Snipes it in the water. Re-tees it, hits it up, pitches on 3 putts. Triple. It's kind of a shock. He was playing well in the tournament. I'm like, okay, we got 17 holes to get this back. And I told him the Ben Hogan story about Hogan made triple it somewhere on the first hole somewhere. He turned to his playing partner and said, that's why they make 18 holes. And he ground out. It was a windy day and he shot par. In the end, he played a good round. But as a player, it's like, wow, am I going to shoot 80 today? And you get mad and you get, so let's go to the next hole and make a par. And, we'll chip away at it. And he chipped away at it. But you think much more sensibly and clearly as a caddy than you do as a player. Except I don't think Jack Nicklaus did. I think Nicklaus thought as a caddy and thought, I don't ever did. I could never think as a player the way I think as a caddy.
So it begs the question, how important is the caddy?
Well, not that important. Well, it depends if you think they're important or not. I mean, Peter Thompson, if you ask Thompson or Nicklaus or Hogan, they would say, well, they just carried the clubs. Players are more reliant on caddies now because they pay them so much money. They feel like they probably should be more reliant on them. But
do caddies do more? Are caddies different these days than they used to be?
No, because 30 years ago, the players were asking caddies for advice. What do you think? And I always did that because I often had good caddies, and I would always discuss shots with my caddy. Thompson never did. He never asked a caddy anything, really. So I like the idea of being really self-sufficient. I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. And if I could have thought like a caddy as a player, I never would have asked a caddy anything. Because as a caddy, I can caddy for these kids and go, what's a 5-iron shot off the tree on the right, knock it down a bit. It's not a full 5, but 6 is not enough. Just knock it down, turn it left, aim it there, and, I can think like a caddy. But I couldn't think like as a caddy when I was a player. Because you might think, shit, I was in this hole last year and I snap hooked in the trees. Or,
that's exactly right.
You remember shots from, so the caddy doesn't know that.
The highlight reel, the film reel.
Yeah, the film.
We all have, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've been here before. What did you say about Scott at the Master? I've seen this movie before. I remember talking to you about that.
I've read this book and I've seen
That's right. I've seen this movie before. I know how it ends, and it's not the way that we wanted to. Of course, he proved you wrong, which was fantastic. Playing's been a big part of your life, obviously, but it's not the one that we think about you for, because you've had this second half of your career where course design obviously has been a big deal. But I feel like your public utterances, writings, your podcast appearances, those things are fast becoming an important part of
maybe I don't
legacy. Is that the right word?
I don't know. Other people see what I say, but I always thought Peter Thompson was a guy. He was my god in golf in Australia. I grew up reading his stuff, and I disagreed with most of it until I was old enough and hopefully got a bit smarter to realise that he was actually right. He was always right, and I was always wrong. So now that he's not around, I mean, you pick up where you try and be the voice of it. I don't have the credit as a player, but sometimes I try and what would he be saying about this? What would he think about the equipment debacle and how far the ball goes? Well, I know what he thought about it. He spoke about it. What would his attitude be to all this? And he shaped a lot of the way I think about golf. He shaped the way I see the game, because I recognised that he was incredibly intelligent and had thought about it a lot, and he understood it. And he understood how important the old course was and how play was important, and why are we blindly following the Americans? He was wrong about we needed to change the big ball because to produce great players we needed to be playing with the same equipment.
Did he not agree with that?
He was completely against that.
Right. Okay.
And he was wrong on that, I think, but he was absolutely right on the principle of why are we blindly following the Americans? Why is the whole world falling into what they want? And he was absolutely right about that. Why do we blindly follow America into Afghanistan and Vietnam? He was right about that too. So, blindly following America in anything is not a good thing. It's fine if you think about what they're doing and you're on their side and it makes a logical case. But why did we go to Iraq? I mean, really? So why are you forcing us to play with a ball that doesn't suit our conditions? It's too windy here. You're playing with a ball where the fairways are longer and lusher. You changed the big ball in America because the small ball sat down too low in the longer, lusher fairways, and there was less wind. It was purely convenience why they went to a bigger golf ball. And now you're forcing the whole world to change. Why are we blindly following America? So he was right on the principle, but he was wrong on, clearly
the outcome.
The generation of Seve and Norman, Nick Price, were clearly advantaged by being forced to play with the ball the best players in the world were using. And they, in turn, became the best players in the world because they did that.
Maybe you can't foresee some of those things.
Yeah. The law of unintended consequences.
Yeah, all of that sort of stuff. As you say, Thompson's a highly intelligent bloke, as are you, as are lots of others who are fascinated with this game. How does that happen, and do we think it's more important than it is? It's just a game, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's not important. And the problem is it gets mistaken for an industry and a business, so you get people caring much more about the business than the game of it. But yeah, it's a game. It's a game for amateurs to play for fun. It's recreation. And the great thing about it is that you can play it all over the world on wildly different fields. We're at the Renaissance Cup yesterday and Monday and Tuesday at the National. And there's the guy who makes Seamus head covers, the money guy behind McDonald Leather Bag Company. There are all the guys who work for Tom. There are just different people from all over the world just come and play golf for 2 days. And it's like, what a great way to spend 2 days and get people together who just love golf, who just want to play together. And you play cool 9-hole matches and, It's so that's why golf's great. That's what golf is, and it doesn't. None of those guys there care about technology, or none of them have got the flashiest new drivers, or some of those guys. Matt Molliker's out there playing with hickory shafts, and
yes.
I went and played with Angela Moser yesterday. We went out on the Moona course with some old Tour Ballada hundreds and persimmon woods. She'd never played with a Ballada ball or a persimmon wood. It was like, well, how much fun is this?
How'd she go?
She loved it. She's a good player. It was fantastic. We would never meet. I would never meet a girl who grew up in the same town as Bernd Langer, near Munich, and she's working for Tom, shaping up stuff, and got a great mind for design. We would never have met her in any other world but golf. Would you ever meet a girl who lived up in a little town near Munich, and you realise that you all like the same things and laugh at the same things, and you enjoy dinner together, and it's a way to bring people together. And that's the most important thing about golf, is it brings people together who would never otherwise meet each other or come together. If they played golf in Syria, the place wouldn't be a mess.
Maybe you've said that more than once as well. Do you ever find yourself, as I sometimes do, frothing at the mouth in some rabid Twitter debate about something, and then it just strikes you, this is madness, it's just a game, and I get so worked up about it.
But someone needs to defend it, because the guys who don't care about the game, they care about the money and the business and their own gratification, and they think their 25 yards is the most important thing in the world. And really? You're going to give up golf because someone takes 20 yards off you? And that's that's not what the board debate's about anyway. The USJ and the R&A have said if someone wants to invoke a local rule to use a rollback ball, then you can do that. And hopefully they do it at the US Open and the British Open, and the Masters will do it, and the Australian Open will do it. If no one else does it, that's fine. Okay, you don't do it. But if you want to play the British Open, then you don't have to play. But if you want to play, here's what you're going to play with. Because we think the 7th St Andrews the tee should be inbounds, not out of bounds. And the tee on the 9th hole should be on the old course, not on the new course. And we don't think there should be 6 drivable par 4s at St Andrews in the Open next year. And we think the road hole was better when it was a drive and a 3-iron off the proper tee. So that's but people don't care about that. Because they're better athletes. I mean, really?
There's no doubt. There might be
sure, they're
across the board, they're more athletic.
And I think the USJ acknowledge that.
Yeah, sure.
My point is, I don't care what they are.
No.
The ball goes too far. I don't care why it's going too far. It goes too far.
Now, is that not ultimately about where you stand on what's the most important thing in the game? Is it the player, whoever that group of players might be, professionals, or is it the golf courses? And over time, I've come down on the side of the golf courses are what makes golf unique.
Courses are by far the most important thing. And if they roll the ball back now and no one figures out a way to make it go further, which they always do, in 100 years' time, no one will know the ball went as far as it does now. The ball will go, like Mackenzie said, distance is always relative. Mm-hmm. So if you're the longest hitter, Jeff and I played, Ogilvy and I played at King Garrick, the Hickory Shaft course near St Andrews at 2010, just before the 2010 Open. They had 1890 specification balls. And I could hit it 160 yards and he could hit it 200 yards. He bombed it 200 yards. And after about 6 holes, he said, how much more fun is it walking 200 yards to play your next shot than walking 300? That makes perfect sense to me. So that as the ball's gone further, the courses have got longer and longer. And the stupid thing about Chambly and his debate is, do we want to go back and drive Model T Fords is, when we went to steel shafts and better golf balls, we obsoleted every 6,000, sub 6,000 yard course. Well, they were all obsolete in the face. And Kingsneath by 1932 was 6,800 yards. That was the new standard. And that was 7,000 yards was a pretty good standard from, steel shafts post-depression until Pro V, until 2000 really, 1990, the late 90s. The balance was pretty good.
Multi-layer.
Then we get a graphite shaft, 45-inch graphite shaft, a frying pan head with titanium, a ball that goes forever and will spin but goes through the wind. And all of a sudden, it's 7,500 yards or 800 yards is what you need to have. And that doesn't make any sense to me. It's ridiculous. But the courses are clearly, so what we're going to do is what we did when we went from Hickory to Steel was obsolete Swinley Forest and all those short, 6,200 yard Woking and Sanedale. They all became obsolete in the face of really strong. Not Sanedale wasn't obsolete, but Jones's 32 shots and 32 putts, 66 at Sanedale was seen as a historic round. I mean, 66 is par for Tiger Woods at Sanedale. So we're in danger of obsoleting, again, a whole new lot of courses.
With a lot less land resource to call on.
Yeah, Kingston East gone back to the first tee's. The first tee is literally up against the clubhouse window. Now, there is no, we worked there for 25 years. There is no 20 years. There is no room to go there anymore. So it's just, what do you do? How do you keep the test? How do you keep the test relevant? And how do you respect what Mackenzie did and Tillinghast and Colton, right? All those great. How do you respect what they did and how they wanted their courses to play? And you can't tell me, no matter what argument you put, they wanted the first at Kingston to be a driving a 9-iron or a driving a wedge. It was a par 5. When Thomas Peters stands there and drives Nicholas Colsatz in the foursomes at the World Cup 90 metres off the green, off a tee that Mackenzie didn't build. We built the tee 20 yards behind the real tee. Is that what he wanted? Is that how little respect we've got for Mackenzie and those guys who left us the best courses in the world until this generation? And you go and talk to Tom Doak or Bill Corr or Gil Hansen, the guys who are leaving the great course of this generation, ask them what they think about the ball and how far it goes. I mean, Tom's attitude is, why are we even to care about these guys?
We kind of need
to. Why do we
to
bother about pro golf? Which is actually not a bad point of view.
That's true, but it does play an important role, doesn't it? Your reverence for Peter Thompson is part of the reason why you got hooked on golf and became a player and did all those other things. So we can't dismiss professional golf.
And the reality was these courses were built. They were in Melbourne. They were built for. They were great members courses, but they were built to hold important championships. They were built to hold the Australian Amateur, the Australian Open, the Vic Amateur. They were meant to test championship play. They weren't, if they wanted them to test members, they'd have built them. Kingston wouldn't have been 6,800 yards; it'd have been 6,200 yards, and it would still be 6,200 yards because for 80% of the members, that's how long it should be.
If professional golf is ultimately just entertainment, and I think most of us accept that in reality that's what it is it less entertaining now? I've probably teed that up. That's a legitimate question, isn't it? Yeah. Is it a less entertaining spectacle with a ball that goes ever further than it was, let's go to the 80s and 90s? We had the tail end of Nicholas, the start of Norman, and Norman's Seve and Lyle, and the one you're familiar with.
We watched Tiger Woods at Royal Melbourne. That's entertainment. That's as good as anything anyone's ever seen.
It was a privilege, wasn't it?
You can't say it's not as entertaining. Because you watch Tiger Woods play golf, it's amazing. It's incredible. But watching Greg or Seve hit a blade 1-iron over a skyscraper, which I watched Tiger do that at Bethpage with Huggy at 2002 on the 13th hole. It's more entertaining when you know they're doing it with a club that's really hard to do it with, and that most guys on the tour can't do that. They can't hit that shot. That shot Tiger hit in 2002, they can't hit that shot. I played with Greg and Seve at Huntingdale in 1983, and I hit it down the 6th fairway and hit a 3-iron up the fairway and a wedge on the green. They hit it over the corner, and they both hit these 2 or 3 irons onto the 6th. When no one hit the 6th green then. Had these 2 irons, these towering 2 irons up onto the middle. It was like, my God, they were unbelievable shots. That was entertaining because they were hitting shots that anyone who watched that. So there's Mike Clayton. He can't do that, but they can. That's why they're better. But give everyone a ball that goes further in a hybrid. If someone hit exactly the same shot with a hybrid, doesn't impress me at all. It's the same shot, but I know how much easier it is to do with that thing than it is with that thing. And watching Seve with a 56-degree sand iron do magic was way more impressive than watching Phil Mickelson do it with a 64-degree sandwich. Lionard shot 63 at first round of the Open at Metro in 1997, and he hit some unbelievable bunker shots. And Norman walked up to his bag the next week and pulled his sand iron out of his bag. Norman was playing with him. Mm-hmm. And put it down. He put it back and sniffed. He said, I thought you were a good bunker player.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah. I thought you were a good bunker player.
So he was using a 60-degree wedge.
64.
64.
Yeah, 64-degree sand iron.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's not fair. That's not a fair fight if you're doing that. Yeah. But, it's always been entertaining. But I thought it was more entertaining when players were using equipment that was more difficult to use.
Does that rely on the golfer having more knowledge of how impressive what they're watching is? We talked about the non-golfer looking at the 3-foot putt at Augusta, and they're just 3-foot putts. They're easy. Go make a coffee. Is it?
So does Nicholas's or Norman's or Ian Woosnam's or Seve's great 280-yard drive, is that as impressive as Dustin Johnson's or Rory's 330-yard drive? Problem is you can't even see Rory's drive. You can't see the ball go that far.
You miss the first 100 yards, don't you? Literally.
No, I missed the end of it. I was watching, and I don't think it's my eyes, but because I can see my ball now, but I was playing with Blake Collier at the Vic Open. He drives it I couldn't see them land in the end. They go so far, so I lost the end of that.
It was on this line.
Yeah.
We'll just have to keep walking until we come across it.
It's impressive, but where are that? You've seen that. The clubs Arnold Palmer hit that round at Champions in 1969, where he averaged a 4-iron shot. There was one wedge, a couple of 7-irons. It was mostly 3, 4, and 5 irons, a couple of 2 irons. That would be the most entertaining round of golf you could possibly watch. If any round of golf could come back and be reincarnated, it's Arnold Palmer playing that round. Arnold Palmer playing a US Open on a 7,200-yard course, hitting 2, 3, and 4 irons into the greens, and playing a great round of golf. And is that more entertaining than watching Dustin Johnson and Rory hit 9 irons and wedges? Well, it is to me. Surely no one would argue watching Rory hit bomb drives and 8 irons is more entertaining than watching Arnold Palmer, who we're all in awe of when he drove the ball. I mean, he smashed it. He ground shook when he hit it.
Which is not to say Rory's not entertaining.
No.
But if you were going to put them against each other, I'd love to see Rory hit a 1-iron.
I want to see Rory McIlroy play a round of golf hitting those clubs Palmer hit. That would be the ultimate in how cool would that be? But the problem is there isn't a course where you can do that. The course is going to be 9,000 yards long.
Problem's not Rory. Rory could do it.
Yeah, Rory could. Rory would be better. Rory would win more majors and be better because he's the best long-iron player. So if you're a Rory, you'd be
pushing for the.
The problem is they can't say too much because they're owned by the manufacturers. Shut up! Don't talk about this stuff. We're paying you to be quiet.
That's passing though, isn't it? We see a lot of players these days not contracted. Yeah, not a lot. There's a few.
But you don't see anyone who's working for Titleist coming out again saying something about the ball.
It's pretty rare.
Yeah. So who's Rory? Is Rory a Nike player? Well, no, TaylorMade. Well, he's not saying too much. He's sort of, but
he did. His comment on the rollback report was, anything that makes the footprint of professional golf smaller. Because this is the unseen. All the stuff we've talked about is the internal debate in golf, isn't it? There's an external element to this in that golf doesn't sit on some island somewhere where it's just got access to whatever resources it wants. We're part of a broader planet. And there are people who don't play golf who are going to have a say about golf's use of land.
Yeah, and water and...
Yeah.
And golf tells its environmental story badly.
Terribly.
In Melbourne, you could argue there is no more important thing in Melbourne for protecting indigenous vegetation, which is the most important vegetation in any city. And Melbourne blew it up and became a European city, then an Australian native city with no respect for what was actually growing here before we got here. The only places that still respect that are the golf courses. Royal Melbourne's the only... and Victoria and Peninsula, the only haven, and Kingsneath, and the only havens for the little the indigenous heathland plants that grew there before the golf was here, before Captain Cook and that mob, before we all came here and decided this is a pretty ugly, scrubby place. Let's clean it up. Let's bring rabbits in and let's plant cypress trees and garden shrubs and oak trees and let's blow out all this heathland because and build houses and schools and build a city on it. The golf course are the only things that save that, and it's a core of people inside those clubs who are saving that, because there are lots of people. If I go and cut down a mahogany gum, which is a miserable tree that should never have been planted on a golf course because it doesn't come from here, the members or half the membership will go crazy. If you went and mowed out all the indigenous heathland plants that are less than 6 inches high, Victoria or Royal Melbourne, then most of the members wouldn't care less. In fact, half of them would be happy about it because they wouldn't top their ball into it. So golf sells its environmental credentials really badly.
Golf sells itself badly, doesn't it? Don't you think?
Well,
from top to bottom.
It allows itself to be demonised by people who don't understand it, who hate it because look at all the water you're using. And golf does suffer from the green is good too much. We use too much water and we should let courses go brown and burn off. And, Hoylake was great, yet the overwhelming consensus of Hoylake in 2006 was, God, the course looked terrible. So it was the only tournament I'd ever been to where not one person complained about the golf course. Everyone thought it was amazing because it's beautiful to hit off. It just was brown. It rained 3 weeks later and went green again. So, and we get too obsessed with condition. We spend too much money on carpet-like fairways. The fairways are like carpet. I mean, people say the fairways are like carpet as if that's a good thing. That's a terrible thing for golf because it just costs money.
But golfers demand it, don't they? We've got a generation.
Well, golfers judge a course on the
condition.
On that, where, that's... people tell me Bunboogle's in bad condition. It wasn't in very good condition. How do you say that one? It's clearly the best conditioned course in the country. Bunboogle and Cape Wickham and Lost Farm are clearly the best conditioned golf courses in the country because they're the only courses using proper grass for golf. They're the only courses using fescue. They're the only places lucky enough to be in places that climate allows them to grow that stuff. But the next best condition course is that 13th beach course and the Moona course at the National because they oversowed fescue into the couch grass. And fescue is the perfect grass for golf. So we played the Garnamata course and then the Moona course yesterday. And the Moona course, Bruce Grant oversowed those fairways with fescue in 2004. They were terrible. They were couch grass. They were dreadful. It was hopeless. In the winter, they were unplayable almost. They were so bad. And they're a mixture of couch, fescue, and power. They're beautiful. They're beautiful to hit off. They look great. They play fantastically well. But they're not carpets. Metro's fairways are carpets. And every lie I've had there since they changed those fairways over before the 1993 Open, how long ago was that? 30 years ago, nearly? Every lie's literally been exactly the same. And 99.9% of people say that's a great thing. And I'm like, why is that a good thing? Was that what golf was supposed to be like? I mean, Mackenzie wrote about you should have the occasional bad lie to see who can do something different. Who's the better player? There's a bad lie. See what you can do out of that. And it costs money, and I don't think it's a great thing. I mean, it's not like it's a bad thing, but is that what golf was supposed to be? Was every lie supposed to be exactly the same?
It's like everything, isn't it? If you don't know what the alternative is and you're happy with the status quo, how would you know that it's more interesting to have a series of lies that are different and change?
Yeah, and you go to Barnbougle or you play the Moona course at the National. Sometimes at the Moona course, sometimes you're playing off power, sometimes you're playing off fescue, sometimes it's a mix of bent and the couch and the fescue. It's not that much different, but it's just subtly different. And the shots out of the power feel just a little different than the shots off the fescue. And the fescue always feels better because that's the perfect surface to hit off. The club ground ball contact is unmatched off fescue. That's why Barnbougle is the best conditioned course because there's no other course feels the same. No other place does the shot feel the same and as good off that turf than at Barnbougle.
Is that only true for players of your ability, your level? I wonder.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, you've got to know what a proper shot feels like, but at some point everyone's hit a proper shot. I wonder if it's less, if they do it less often, so a 20 marker goes to Barnbougle really, at some point surely they must kind of crunch the ground and go, well, that felt different. It felt different.
I wonder about
and the shots at Barnbougle feel different to the shots I hit at Metro. They feel completely different. Not completely, but they feel different. And there's just Sam Snead said it was like the sound of a Rolls-Royce door closing.
Yeah.
A properly struck shot was,
Haven't VW tried that? It's the funk of the door. That was their advertising campaign.
They tried that, did they?
For a while, wasn't it? Up there. Within golf, we have this bizarre push for the homogenisation, it feels. I don't understand why in golf. I wonder whether you've got any thoughts, that a course has to be 4 par 5s and 4 par 3s and par 72. Yeah. Where do you think, what's the mindset that drives that? Because it's the same mindset that wants the perfect lie shot after shot, isn't it?
Well, it's the ignorance. You can only put the reverence for par 72 down to ignorance and not knowing that more than half of the top 100 courses in the world aren't par 72. Why do you want a par 72 when the best course in the world is not par 72 and Muirfield's not 72 and Merion's not par 72 and why would you want to have just for the sake of it? I mean, why is Royal Melbourne's a par 70 in reality? It's certainly a par 71. No, it's par 70. 12 and 15 are clearly just par 4s now.
Par 68
they just haven't
the President's
changed the number on the scorecard yet. But, why does that, Swinley Forest is par 68. I mean, it's one of the best courses in the world. And someone said the other day, we were talking about a course the other day, I said, well, it wouldn't be a par 72. I was like, well, yeah, so what? What's that got to do with? It's the same golf course. Is Victoria a different golf course because they renamed the 8th hole a par 4? It's exactly the same golf course. What do you care what's written on the scorecard? And worse is the concept of what's fairness. What fairness is. Everything's got to be fair. When you go to North Berwick or St Andrews or any of the world's great courses, they're not fair. They're not supposed to be fair. In fact, dealing with the unfairness of it was that was the mental challenge of the game, was dealing with the unfairness of it, the blind shot. And, bunkers, the thing that drives me crazy is people who think bunkers should be consistent, when one, it's an impossibility, and two, your clubs waste fortunes trying to achieve it when it's impossible to achieve anyway. And it gives every member a chance to bitch about their bunkers, because every member at every club, the worst bunkers in the world are the bunkers at their own course. When if I've heard it once, I've heard it 100. The bunkers are like concrete. I did it at Royal Queensland the other day. Okay, let's go to the bunker at the back of the 18th green, which someone who wasn't around that table told me the bunker, the bunker by the 18th green is like concrete. I was with these 3 other guys having this discussion. I was, let's go to the bunker by the 18th green and let's go and see if it's like concrete. So Lucas, Michelle and I walked out. We grabbed Lucas's sand iron, chucked some balls in there, hit them out. We fluked these shots to about 2 feet. So made our argument look even better. Was this like concrete? Oh, the bunkers aren't normally like this. When it's only because the Australian amateurs here. Well, was that my fault?
Yeah.
And I know it's not true because I go to more courses than anyone in Australia. Probably I probably play more courses than anyone in a year around Australia. Like everyone I go to, the bunkers are fine. I don't have a problem with them. And sure, I know how to play a bunker shot, but that's the problem. Anyone with a bad grip can occasionally hit a good shot off a tee and can occasionally hit a good shot off. They can fluke a good shot off a fairway. They can never hit a good bunker shot because with a bad grip, you take the loft off the face. Your first move back is you take the loft off the face. You've got to put the loft back on the face. And you can time that if hitting the ball off a tee or off a fairway sometimes, you can time that. But out of a bunker, you've got to hit behind the ball. And you've got to use the bounce of the club, and you can't do that with a bad grip. You've got to go hard at it and have the face open, hold it open, use the bounce, and go under the ball. And you can't do it with a bad grip. So anyone with a bad grip, they're inevitably going to, and they can't blame if you go to Metro or any other course now, you can't blame your bad shot because you've got a bad lie in the fairway.
This is perfect.
When I was a kid growing up at Eastern, you could blame a bad shot on a shitty lie.
Yeah.
Because there were plenty of dodgy lies, but you can't blame it shot off a tee. The only surface you can blame for your own inadequacy is a bunker. Sand's too wet, too dry, too hard, too soft, uphill, downhill, sidehill, plugged, whatever you want. There's 10 or 8 excuses you can use for your own failure to know how to play the shot. Yeah. Give it to Seve. That was unplayable, mate. Seve would flip that out to a foot every time. What are you talking about? Unplayable. It's unplayable with that grip. You're right. It's unplayable with that technique.
People don't want to hear that, do they?
I want to hear that.
I don't want to hear that at all. Let's start to wrap it up. What's better about golf now than when you played on the tour? And what's worse about golf, if anything?
What's better about golf? That's a good question. What's better about golf? I don't think. Let me think about what's worse about golf. Wooden drivers are gone. The sound of a wooden driver.
Made the game easier, though, hasn't it? Surely that's a good thing.
Made it easier No, I think it's made it for a subset of players. It's made the game much harder. Strong 8 to 15 handicap men who can get speed now, but don't have any club face control. It's made the game miles harder because they hit the ball sideways now. So Ian Andrew talks about it. I think it was Canadian golf architect. His biggest problem is solving safety for all of us. It's solving safety problems for balls that go miles further offline than they ever did. So for a subset of players, there's a big subset, they would score lower with hickory or persimmon because they wouldn't hit that massive wide shot 4 times. The problem is they hit 4 great shots. They hit 4 shots they could never hit with hickory or wood that go 300 yards. They had 4 shots where they can't find the ball. The 4 great shots don't save them many. They might save them 1 or 2. The 4 shots that go sideways cost them 8 shots. They're making triples and doubles. So what's way better about golf? Now, the one thing that's way better about golf is architecture. Way better. We went through, after the Mackenzie and his contemporaries stopped working, the Depression stopped them more than death did, really. There was no work when they were at their prime. Then they died in the 30s, 40s. Trent Jones and Dick Wilson came along and Americanized golf, and it was, there wasn't much work done outside of America. And, Pete Dye came along and said, I saw what direction Trent Jones was going in and decided I would go in exactly the opposite direction, which was his way of saying, I don't think what you're doing is that great for the game. He went and built Harbour Town.
Is it, or is it just a marketing ploy on Pete Dye's part?
No, because he didn't say it when he was doing it. He just went and did different stuff. He didn't say it at the time. He just went off and did different stuff. And sure, he marketed. He went to Scotland and saw the railroad ties, and he did that. That became his signature. But
was his motive altruistic about moving the game in a direction that he felt was better, or was his motive you've got to be different to get the work?
Probably a bit of both.
Yeah, I wonder.
Interesting. But he trained Bill Corr and Tom Doak and that generation of, and so the game is in a great place now. There are great architects working now. There's been a whole bunch of great golf built since Sandhills, which was the most important course. If it wasn't for Sandhills, Bandon never would have gotten done. If it wasn't for Bandon, Bumbugle never would have gotten
The domino effect is...
Yeah, so Mike Kaiser and Dick Youngscap and Sandhills were incredibly important. And they became patrons to Corn Crenshaw and Tom and David Kidd, and they've built great golf. So there's been an amazing line of great golf courses that have been built. And I think we've done some really good work in Australia. And we redid the lakes in Lake Carrup and Royal Queensland. We did some really good work here, I think. Mm-hmm. So golf architecture's in a much better place. There are better wedges, there are better putters, companies can mass produce quality clubs now, whereas they could never do that in the past. I mean, you saw the clubs that Stasinger were making for Nicholas and Trevino when they came out here. That was because Sandy Fakeney was on the grinding wheel making sets for those guys and making beautiful clubs. But you go and look at clubs that off the rack, they weren't very good compared to what they're making now. So clubs are much better. There are no caddies anymore. Golf carts have taken over. They're horrible, I think. But they're great for people who couldn't. I played golf at Metro with a guy called Peter Hurst, lovely guy who's so bad now at golf he's embarrassed to play with us, which drives me crazy because, Hursty, we don't care how bad you are. Just come play with us. But he has to play in a golf cart because he can't get around. So they're great for that. For a guy like him, it's brilliant. It keeps him playing golf. So if you're in a hot, miserable day in the middle of Queensland somewhere, then maybe there are days when you want to get in a golf cart. But they're horrible, basically. They're horrible. What else is good for them? McDonald leather bags are beautiful for golf, but golf bags that PGF made the most beautiful bags in the 70s. If you commission someone to make the ugliest golf bag you could possibly make, can I make the ugliest thing they've nailed it right. those 14 club divider cart bag things with 100 pockets
and a fridge on the front.
They are those PGF bags were just beautiful bags. And they're just horrifically ugly now, golf bags. They're so bad.
Covered in branding, which I know is a favourite of yours.
And PGF was, plain, beautiful bags, beautiful quality. And they were the cost of, my first one of those was $108, which was 108 golf balls, dollar ball. So the equivalent price would now be $800, say. But I've got, my leather bag now, which the McDonald bag guys made, it was 10 years old and it's still perfect. And it'll last another 30 years. So you want to buy, and golf bags are disposable junk now.
Shoes.
Like shoes are. So do you want to buy disposable junk for $200 that lasts 3 years and you throw out and get another one? Or do you want to go and buy a beautiful leather bag that's extortionately expensive? Weight $2,000, whatever they are. But it's going to last you forever and it's beautiful and you're going to love it. Only when I got that leather bag did I understand women's handbags.
Oh, okay.
Now I kind of get it. I don't know why you've got so many of them, but I get why you love a beautiful handbag. And those leather bags last forever. So why are we buying disposable junk? Yeah. Jones bags are great. There's a place for a $300 Jones bag that they're great looking. I love them. I love people carrying their clubs. And they last 3 or 4 years. And you get another one. It's fine. There's a place for that.
That's a more general shift, though, isn't it, society? Yeah. I mean, the disposable consumer society. It's what keeps most of us employed, is the truth. Yeah. If things didn't constantly break down and need to be replaced.
And golf shoes are more comfortable. They're lighter. They're probably better. But was there anything like a pair of FootJoy Classics?
Steel spikes.
Steel spikes. And
Christina Kim still wears the steel spikes. There were grown men following her up the concrete path at 13th Beach just to hear the sound.
The LPGA Tour is better. The women's tour is better. Women they're still not getting paid enough, but they get paid much better for what they do. They're great at, having been around a bunch of them, they're much better than the men at promoting the tour and leaving, talking to journalists, because they need to be better at it. And men are so arrogant, they don't care. There's so much money going around. They've all got teams and managers who don't want them talking to the press because they might say the wrong thing. So the women are great at that. I mean, So Young came down here and gave half her prize money to the $70,000 to the bushfire appeal.
What a gift to the game she is. Yeah.
So women are
lots of blokes gave to the bushfire appeal. We're not saying otherwise.
There's a Korean who came down and gave half her, and they taxed her 48% as well. So she'd walked away from that Vic Open with nothing.
Virtually.
Yeah, I mean, she can get it.
She had 5 dinners with you. So there was, but was there an upside anywhere? It's hard to see.
And Daniel Andrews got to play 9 holes with her at Metro, and and she went and did the charity day for the Tee Up for Kids Day at Peninsula, and
she's just a good human being.
She's amazing.
She's a genuinely good human being.
So they're great at that stuff.
What's the future of the game? Is it at a nexus? It feels like it's a big and important moment.
Yeah, we're going to lose.
Game.
I think we'll lose clubs probably. There are probably too many clubs, and whether you get the high end clubs start charging more and cutting their memberships, and do you lose the second tier clubs in Melbourne, which would be first tier clubs in Sydney? Sometimes some of them. The Spring Valley wouldn't be struggling on the North Shore of Sydney.
Not at all.
It'd be $30,000 to join and be full.
Be revered.
So how do you protect the game so that the courses you lose and build houses on are the courses that most deserve to be lost and have houses built on them, and you don't lose the courses like Spring Valley and Long Island that are tremendous courses that you don't ever want to see houses built on them. So that's the decision that governments and committees are going to have to make. I think losing Kingswood was in a sense, a bad thing, but it allowed Peninsula to be a much better and more viable club than it ever was. And Kingswood was, the neighbours are complaining about losing the amenity of a golf course in that, but it's a law of unintended consequences. They were fair enough to complain about golf balls going in your backyard occasionally, but the law of the unintended consequence was they had to change that golf course so much that it went from being a really good course when Graham Grant was the superintendent there in 1977 when we played there, a really good course that always had a future, to the 13th best course within 20 minutes of Royal Melbourne in a diminishing market. It had no future. So, if the neighbours had let that course go and put up with the annoyance of lost balls, errant balls occasionally, if they'd let it go, that course would probably still be there. Maybe not, but it was a tremendous golf course in the late 70s, and it wasn't by the time it closed down. So, that's one part of the future of it.
What about public golf? Does golf itself, do our authorities pay enough attention to it and its protection? Because without it...
Well, Sydney's closing public golf. Scotland just closed 5 public golf courses.
6 in Glasgow, yeah.
Yeah.
Whose job is it to make the case that golf belongs?
It's Golf Australia's job. That's, what's the point of Golf Australia? Run the Australian Open and protect golf and argue for its environment and argue for its sustainability, argue for public golf. And, the first golf course I played at was a place called Bulleen Public. Campbell was turned into Campbell. It was Bulleen Public course. It was a caravan. It's a guy in a caravan, no clubhouse, because he was a council employee. 30 cents for 9, 40 cents for 18. And he knew we were going to go to the 5th and sneak back to the 3rd and play an extra loop of, 30 cents for 9, 40. And it was a really rudimentary golf course. I'm able to look at it now. It was, the first hole was just a tee and a green with no bunkers, par 3, 5-iron shot. But it was where I could play golf, because I couldn't play at Easton when I wasn't a member, because the members were playing. I could play there at night, but during the day, go to Bulleen. So there was a place for that stuff. And as much as you might put your nose up at the quality of the architecture, there's still a place for kids to play golf. I think there's a place for Himalayas putting greens. I mean, Elstonwick's was a terrible public, in terms of, it was a Doak 1, because he wouldn't give it a 0, because he gave zeros to courses that
damage the game,
that have wasted ridiculous sums of money and shouldn't have been built in the first place.
Yeah.
So it was a Doak 1.
Mm-hmm.
And fine if you want to close the golf course, but build a Himalayas putting green.
Do something.
So that, and Himalayas putting greens, I don't like mini golf. I just think it's a stupid game, but it's not. They should take the word golf out of mini golf, to be honest with you. But if you build a Himalayas putting green, anyone can hit the ball with a stick along the ground. If you had to build a massive Himalayas putting green at Elstonwick, right in the middle of where 1 million people live within 2 miles of it, maybe not 1 million, but close, and you had a barrel of putters and a barrel full of golf balls, and anyone who wanted to go down there could grab a putter and grab a ball and smash the ball across a massive putting green, where you don't have to get the ball in the air. You don't have to look like an idiot because you can't get the ball in the air. You just putt the ball on the ground. What an amazing way to get kids into golf, I think. You learn how to hold a club. Mm-hmm. Here's how you hold it, and just hit it and make it crazy. It's a place for that, I think.
Instead, it's just fenced, isn't it? Isn't it just fenced?
It's
just a fenced weed paddock at the moment?
Graffitiing the old pro shop, and I don't know what they're doing with it. They're growing trees on it maybe, but which is fine. You can say it was 50 acres. We'll grow trees on 40 acres of it and put a Himalayas putting green on 5 acres of it and put a bowling green or a tennis court.
Walking trails,
whatever you want. I don't care what you do with it, but have some golf there. But golf doesn't have to be traditional golf.
No.
It can be Himalayas putting green.
Yep. Pitch and putt. There's all sorts of options, isn't there?
Yeah.
Lots of
But
options.
make it so that it's not an intimidating game to play. Make it so. I remember Jeff and I opened Royal Canberra, and the last hole at Royal Canberra's got a tear in the green. we played this 9-hole exhibition match, and they were talking about that. And there was a little girl, and we'd putted up the tier, and it was a hard putt up the tier. And this little girl that I don't think she's ever hit a golf ball. I said, "Do you want to have a go?" So she's kind of shied away a bit, and I said, "No, come on." So I got behind her and kind of showed her how to hold the club, and she whacked this ball. It was like, wow, it was like a light went off in her head. That was kind of fun. I can do that. But if you'd put her on a tee and to hit the ball, she would have missed it.
There's the green.
She's embarrassed. She feels like an idiot.
Yeah.
But she could hit the ball up the tier. You know. I mean, you could just be a putter. If there was the Himalayas putting green at Elstonwick, you could just be a putter. Build a cool coffee shop. Let's go to the coffee. Let's go have coffee. Go putt the ball around. There's a hole. Let's go do that.
Because it taps into something fundamentally human, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course.
I've forgotten Peter Thompson's son. How can I believe? Andrew told us on a podcast that it really just taps into something very primal. There's a stick, ball, target, and there's umpteen games being designed around it. Golf's the best of them.
Yeah, that's exactly
but
right.
the basic notion of try and whack this or throw something into a bin or
just go games that humans play, and it's kind of it's a natural game for humans to play. You have a stick and a stone, and that's what we're doing. Really, it's just we've just modified it,
but turned it into a big business.
So public golf's important. I mean, I keep arguing that public golf should be better, and there's a place for better architecture.
Yes.
The problem with the model is that councils lease public courses out to an operator who's never going to spend any money on the architecture.
So you've no interest in it
because he closes the golf course down for a year. Yeah. He's got no money for a year. You can't charge any more when it opens up. So he just mows it. Yeah. Keeps it green, mows it.
Last one. If we can find somebody to build Australia's winter park, whether it looks like winter park or something else.
Yeah. So it's a little 9-hole short, good fun,
great fun,
rudimentary inner city golf.
It attracts people. There's other stuff to be done. If we can find someone with the courage to do it, will the domino effect kick in and everybody will want one? That'd be my hope.
Yeah, I think if someone builds a Himalayas putting green in a place where people live, I think people would be amazed at how popular it would be, because it's a game it satisfies that human instinct of a stick and ball. You don't have to be a golfer to do that.
Will you put your money where your mouth is and design it for Nick's?
Well, we're going to do well. We pretty much are. I'm going to see Richard Sattler at Barnbougle next weekend, and we're going to do one at Barnbougle.
Oh, fabulous!
So I think
they're doing a short course as well, aren't they? So which is another.
Bill's guys are starting. Bill Call's guys are starting this week. I think Bill's down at the end of the month. I'm going to go to Barnbougle, and we're going to sort out how we're going to do this Himalayas putting green. And I think when people see that, they'll go, "Wow, this is," because no one's seen them. No one's been. Most people haven't seen the Himalayas putting green at the old course. Or when I played my first Open there, I didn't even know it was there. That's how stupid I was. I teed off the thing and didn't know what it was. So, I think if people see one and go, "Wow, this is pretty cool. Let's do this." I think clubs will do them. I think they might take off, because they don't cost anywhere near as much as a mini golf thing, which is $1 million to build it.
Yeah, that's right. It's all concrete and.
But you've got to maintain them. I mean,
that's right. It's an ongoing.
You have to cut it and water it and fertilise it. And,
like you said, a cool coffee shop, and you can't imagine that you'd think you'd be able to cover the costs of mowing a big section of grass with. And
you have free putters. Putters are free.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Just have a barrel of putters, and you go around. You go to Ross Baker's place and just get all these old putters and chuck them in a barrel.
You can build 7 Himalayas with what he's got.
Yeah, and you start a tightness. Give us 1,000 balls we can chuck in a barrel, and balls are free. And don't steal them. And if you want to steal them, steal one. Don't steal 4. Yeah.
Well, that might be the one use for range balls, mightn't it?
Yeah.
They putt just as good as anything. Not so much.
And it's free. Yeah. Just get kids going down there and walking their dog. Anyway, everyone.
Well, that's what we're really talking about there, is making golf a part of the community as opposed to golf being over there, which is how it exists in Australia. It's behind a fence. It's another suburb away. You've got to get in your car and drive to it. In St Andrews, you walk through the town. You walk past the golf course.
Yeah, so what's the difference between golf in Scotland and golf in Australia? There's one major difference: fences.
Yep.
We have fences. Tear down the fences. Everyone's worried about vandalism or behave. And if someone, just put a post and rail fence around. So if you want to drive your car, and if you want to vandalise Yarra, you can vandalise Yarra. You can drive in the gate. Anyone can drive in and vandalise a golf course if they want to. You can.
Yeah.
We're better than that, aren't we?
You'd hope.
Yeah.
Don't think we've proved it yet. Been good to chat to you.
Thanks, mate. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
It was fun. Thank you.
Always fun.
Enjoyed it.
Well, that's it for episode 17, and I hope that you enjoyed it even half as much as I did. As I said at the outset, I'm of the firm belief that generations of golfers in the future will talk about Mike and his contributions to golf. Even those who disagree with him, and we know there are many, are hard-pressed to question his passion, love and enthusiasm for the game. Now, in a funny way, we're not straying too far from Mike Clayton on our next episode when we catch up with one of Clayton's dear friends and one of the most popular golfers of his generation, Zimbabwe's Tony Johnston.
You know, everything I have is through golf. I met Karen, my wife, through golf. My career was obviously golf. You know, my kids came because of Karen through golf. So, yeah, I mean, golf has been, it's been the cornerstone of my whole life, really.
It's next time on The Thing About Golf.